How's it going, folks? I'm Matthew. This is Lemora's Cards, and today I'm breaking down the Landgo Open 10K cEDH tournament that happened just this past weekend in Nashville, Tennessee. I was at this event. It was awesome. It was an awesome experience. I had a ton of fun. It ran very smoothly from my experience. Had no issues with judges. A little bit of logistics in the first round kind of setting up because there's a lot of people in one room, even though this was two big events separate, and still we had a lot of people. This was 269 players, so a very large event plus the other 100 plus invitational that was going on. So if you enjoyed this video, like, comment, subscribe. Let me know down below which of these deck lists are your favorite, what you're thinking about the current cEDH metagame. I know there was a lot of talk about weird stuff that happened in this past weekend worth of tournaments. This event had some pretty wild top 16 and top 4 coverage games, and there's another event that had infamous at this point already 11-hour finals. Maybe I'll talk about that in a more broad tournament cEDH type of video, going over some issues with that and maybe things we can address it and stuff related to weirdness in tournaments that's been going on. But today, talking about this top 16, let's go ahead and hop into it. Use the link in the description below to download Whatnot, and you'll get $15 to use to buy Magic singles, sealed product, get anything that you want, really. There's no limits. You just get $15 on the account for free just for signing up. Use the link in the description below. Give Whatnot a try. So first up, we're going to take a look at the metagame breakdown. Pretty notable stuff going on here. So there were, for a really big event, there were not that many decks that had more than 10 entries. So you had Tymna Kraum as the most popular deck of the weekend. Not too surprising. 35 entries, 3 top cuts, 8.57% conversion rate, very low conversion rate. Kinnan, 21 entries, 2 top cuts, 9.52, a little bit better, but still pretty low conversion rate. Rog Thras had the highest conversion rate of any deck with more than 10 entries, and it's still only 10%. Like, that's still not a crazy high conversion rate at all. Rog size, there weren't really many of them, 40% conversion rate, but only 5 of them showed up, which I've found quite surprising. TNTs did okay, 7% with 14 entries. And the only other decks with more than 10 were Sisse, which had 0 top 16s, and Marnius, which had 0 top 16s. So actually a pretty diverse top 16. I know 3 Tymna Kraums still seems like a lot, but not really when it's the most popular and best performing deck in the format. And we saw some other stuff do well. We're going to get into it. I don't want to talk about the decks, but other popular options like Malcolm Vile showed up, didn't quite get there. A lot of Malcolm Keddises in the room, a lot of Vitalis. They did well in the invitational from what I've heard, but then just lots of like 3s and 2s. I mean, you just keep scrolling and scrolling and scrolling. And there was a lot of wild stuff in this tournament. You come down here, Lord of the Nazgul, the Ashling, like really cool stuff. You can, probably find a lot of spice in here, even though the decks didn't do all that well, but it's here. And it was actually a pretty diverse event for something that was pretty competitive, what it felt like in the room. First up, we got Lumra here at 16th place. From what I heard, this was this player's first tournament, and that's pretty sick, especially on a really hard to pilot deck. It's kind of a fan favorite and has a really dedicated community. In a lot of the events that I've covered, it still hasn't really like super overly been represented or had amazing breakout performances. Like there have been some top 16s and some good placements and some stuff in events that I didn't cover. It still just hasn't like blown up to the point where, like Magda hit a breaking point where it's like, okay, everybody needs to learn how this deck works. Lumra, we're starting to get there where you start to see it more and more and you need to have a good understanding of it. I'm not going to do a full breakdown on how Lumra works and what all 50 whatever lands they run do in this deck, but I'm going to do my best and gonna try to get more educated on Lumra so that I can better, help other people understand it, as well as just have a good understanding of it for myself. But let's go through it. Lumra on its own is 6 mana. It has power and toughness, each equal to the number of lands you control. And when it enters, you mill 4 cards, then return all land cards from your graveyard to the battlefield tapped. Very common thing. You run lots of lands, ways to find lands, ways to put lands into your graveyard, ways to sacrifice them, to make mana off of them, things like that. And then Lumra enters the battlefield, put all those lands into play. You can convert that into mana very easily with things like Lotus Cobra, Tiller Engine, which is a land untapper. You have Amulet of Vigor to do this as well. Nissa Resurgent Animus. Ways to put lands in the yard, get them back into play, and convert that into mana to do things like Aftermath Analyst loops to be able to loop all the lands in your graveyard. You stack all your lands, have a Shifting Woodland copy of Aftermath Analyst, do it all over again. Net infinite mana and keep sacrificing your Lumra and replaying it, either with Food Chain or some other land-based effect shenanigans with like cloning it. Do an infinite finale if we need to, but we can also do infinite just land-based loops. We'll get there. Creatures, we got some Dorks, Elvish Reclaimer as a land tutor, Sylvan Safekeeper as a sack outlet for lands, as well as being a way to protect some pieces if we need to. Aftermath Analyst, a major part of land-based loops. Collector Oof slows the game down to your pace. Cobra, Nantuko is starting to be a pretty well-known piece in the format, partially due to Rog Thras making this a really popular card after Nadu already used it to pretty good effect. Opens up your opportunities even harder to where you can put it on a Lumra. You make a new Lumra when a land enters the battlefield. You sacrifice the new Lumra. Still have the effect anyways. Boop, 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 boop. Do the thing. Heartwood Storyteller. This is a cool tech piece. I've talked about it a little bit. 3 mana whenever a player casts a non-creature spell. Each of that player's opponents may draw a card. This card can kind of incentivize people not to push, similar to like a Mystic Remora. It's giving you resources as well as your opponents who are probably better, able to interact with decks that are pushing with non-creature spells. Really, this serves as a sort of stacks piece. Traditionally, stacks pieces are known for slowing down play by making the game smaller and reducing the amount of resources players have. Whereas this is a stacks piece in that it makes it so the game goes so big and it introduces so many resources to all the players that it makes it very hard for players to win in a traditional way that's, easy to interact with. Whereas a deck like Lumra wins on an axis that is very hard to interact with typical decks. So a lot of times, even in those high resource games, Lumra is able to sort of pick it up and just do the thing, even when the table has like a full grip plus, it could still be really hard to interact with just land loops and activated abilities of creatures and lands. Pretty hard to deal with, even if your opponents have like 15 cards in their hand. So Vala is going to make a zillion mana with a Lumra with like 50 lands in play, which is very possible. 6 land recursion graveyard deck. Blossoming Tortoise, her land recursion graveyard deck that activates abilities of lands as well. Root Path Purifier is lands you control and land cards in your library are basic, meaning primarily that all of your lands are able to be untapped with Earthcraft is like one of the crazier synergies. Like you get a Gaia's Cradle, you can, tap your creatures down. Like if you're looping a creature like Lumra, for instance, you have a new Lumra enter, tap it down to Earthcraft to make a billion mana off of your Gaia's Cradle, let it die, whatever you're doing to outlet, sack it, and continue and just make lots and lots of mana. Go infinite, help pay for the food chain difference in your mana, whatever it is. Just a really cool option. We'll see if there's other synergies with basic lands, but it doesn't make them fetchable. It doesn't give them a type like Forest. Timeless Witness is like Eternal Witness, but you can cast it from your graveyard, and we mill lots and lots of stuff into our graveyard with Lumra. Ashaya, we're doing all kinds of lands garbage. Every single creature being a land also triggers our landfall triggers while we're looping creatures like our Lumra or whatever it is. And then Emrakul. This is a big card that's hard to interact with, and it's really easy for us to get Delirium and 13 mana, but there you go. Sorceries, we got a bunch of tutors, Green Sun's Finale, Life from the Loam, of course, lines up with everything that we're doing. Might also be able to do some Life from the Loam 6 loops or other land stuff. Nature's Rhythm, fantastic card in this sort of deck. Eldritch Evolution, and then Will of the Sultai, which is 5 mana. Commander spell, so choose one, you get both if you have a commander. Target player mills 3 cards, return all land cards from your graveyard to the battlefield tapped, put X +1/+1 counters on target creature, where X is the number of lands you control against trample until end of turn. Put all your lands into play. It's like a Lumra type effect, right? We got 2 tutors in Crop Rot and Archer's Charm, as well as having some flexibility as removal. And Eldrazi Confluence, which is 2 colorless. Choose 3. You may choose the same mode more than once. Target creature gets +3/-3. Exile target non-land permanent. Return to the battlefield tapped and its owner's control. And then create a 1/1 colorless Eldrazi Scion creature token with sack this creature, add colorless. So we can use this as removal. We can use this to liquor our stuff. And mono green just seems pretty good. Lumra triggers as well, being able to hit multiple things that might have a relevant ETB, whatever it is, like your Timeless Witness, whatever. Probably do Timeless Witness loops with Eldrazi Confluence as well. LED helps us get lands to the graveyard, does some that shenanigans I was mentioning with 6 with the Life from the Loam. Petal, Diamond, Zuranor lets us sack our lands. Eminent Vigor's a land untapper. Fast mana. You have Staff of Completion and Domination. Both of these will just have their own utility, right? They destroy a target permanent you own is probably more relevant in this deck than any Staff of Completion deck I've covered, because just getting lands into the graveyard when you need to is a pretty relevant part of what this deck does. But all of them are also a potential infinite mana outlet. The life, maybe no, it doesn't matter because something like Zuranor can get us life, and maybe some of these lands in the enter the battlefield gain us some life as well. Then we have the One Ring. Enchantments, lots of land stuff. Burgeoning, Exploration, both put a bunch of lands into play. Mana Bond is at the beginning of your end step. Reveal your hand, put all lands from it into the battlefield. Then if you do, discard your hand. All 3 ways to put a bunch of lands into play. Sylvan Library, some card advantage. We got the food chain that I mentioned. Can do pure food chain loops. We can be into non-deterministic situations where we just use the Lumra and we're slowly losing mana, but we have kind of the ability to keep firing off, find more lands, to potentially put a combo together. Talking of the Dryads, turns any permanent into a colorless forest land. Maybe at points we use it on our own stuff for some synergies. I'm not really sure, but it also just is a way to nuke a permanent. Just it doesn't do anything anymore. And Spelunking is another land untapper. 52 lands. Arid Archway, which lets you surveil. Bazaar of Baghdad, discarding stuff. Buried Ruin. Like, you see all the different utility stuff, the different sacrifice effects. Echoing Deeps, which can enter us a clone copy of something. Field of the Dead, which can get us infinite creatures. Gyroreach Sanitarium, which can mill our opponents out, or I guess deck our opponents who are going for like a Thoracle win. Ability to sack creatures. Lotus Field is a major part of a lot of these loops because it lets you sacrifice itself and other lands that can really help you kind of spin your wheels with Lumra. And then we have some lands that we can use as an outlet. We got the Mount of Ronem, I think is how you pronounce this. This deals damage, and there's another one that Sunscorched Desert. ETB, deal 1 damage to target player. Have some outlets, utility stuff like the Tabernacle. We're one of the few decks I think that can afford to run Wasteland and Strip Mine. These are really bad answers to Cradle Focus decks if you aren't doing some shenanigans like Lumra and running 50 lands. And also at times the right line for you to do is to wasteland your own lands. So lots of utility stuff, lots of really wild loops. I can't possibly tell you all the different, combo stuff that Lumra gets to do. Find the Lumra Discord, join there. I do want to learn more about the deck. I've been learning more and more as I watch it. Just a really awesome deck. Next up, we got Kaalia. Says last updated 8 hours ago. Hopefully what was actually played at the event. But as far as I know, this is what they play. This is what's on here. Working with what I got. Kaalia of the Vast. It can absolutely jam and do the turn 2 as a privilege thing. And it can really thrive in mid-range games as well. If you don't know, for 1 in Mardu, you get a flyer with whenever it attacks an opponent. I don't know who else it would attack. I guess a Planeswalker doesn't trigger it. That's coming up for me, actually. You may put an Angel, Demon, or Dragon creature card from your hand on the battlefield tapped and attacking that opponent. The ones of those that we run in this list are Hoarding Broodlord, Razaketh the Foul-Blooded, Villas Broker of Blood, Ancient Copper Dragon, and Doom Whisperer. We've got the Hoarding Broodlord. Saw and Half Loops. We have the ability to just win with Razaketh with just 1 tutor, really. Setting up more tutors. Villas is one of the best reanimate targets. Reanimate, draw 8. Ancient Copper Dragon is one heck of a way to make a lot of mana. And then Doom Whisper is an awesome way to fuel your Underworld Breach. We got Children of Corliss, which is white. Sacrifice it. You gain life equal to life you've lost this turn. So with something like Doom Whisper, it allows you to surveil most of your deck away. Like if you have a Breach in play Children of Corliss, crack it, gain all their life back. Doom Whisper again. Children of Corliss, crack it, gain double that back because you've lost like 60 life or whatever. Scales up, and you'll be able to gain tons of life while milling your entire deck, or using, going very deep on an Ad Nauseam, or a Citadel if you're running that in your list, Necropotence, whatever it is. Stapley stuff like Esper Sentinel, Ragavan, Archivist of Ogma, Flame Scroll Celebrant, mainly for the Revel in Silence, but every now and then you'll cast it. Abolisher Lotho, great Magda deck. Some of them are on Citadel, some of them are not. We'll see when we get there. Dualcaster Mage, just pretty good card in general to flash in as a way to get some extra interaction, but also here for Saw and Half Loops. Do infinitely Praetor's Grass to your opponents, infinitely cast any spell that's on the stack, really. Oppo, Ranger, and then Spirit Guide, and our big old monsters. Sorceries, we got Faithless Looting to get some of these in the yard. Gamble, Gleeful Demolition, which is your main option for Razaketh lines, where you will put the Razaketh into play, sacrifice Kaalia, go get Gleeful Demolition, blow up one of your artifacts. You have 3 goblins now. You can tutor for, your LED, get your Breach, do that shenanigans, put it together as you want, but it's a pretty deterministic line. This assembles a win, very similar to like Life Death in the Golgari plus Razaketh decks. Imp Seal, Reanimate, just some tutors, rituals. Very good Demonic Council deck because we have actual demons that you do actually want to tutor for at times. The Wheel, Beseech, and then Savine's Wreck. Burn Offering and Sacrifice both being here. We run big old monsters. Sometimes you just stack Kaalia to be another Culling the Week, whatever it is. So yeah, rituals, tutors. We got the Entomb to put some of the stuff in the yard. We're also, I'm already a Breach deck, so that can line up well. Rain of Filth can really make it a lot easier on tight Underworld Breach lines. Shallow Grave is another reanimation effect. Also stuff can line up with your Invoke Calamity lines. These ones are kind of a lot, but basically you're able to do things like put a card into play, burn, do like a Brood Lord where you burn offering it, then you invoke Calamity, and you have like instant speed lines to actually be able to win, setting up like a dual caster line or something like that. Also, you just kind of fill your graveyard with gas, and it can just be good in a pinch anyways, but there are just instant speed lines to be able to win, which is really cool. Saw and Half, like I mentioned, go with a Broodlord, go with a dual caster, so there's like good overlap on the dedicated combo pieces versus something like a Molten Dupe, which is pretty niche, also sorcery speed. And then we are in Ad Nauseam. Doesn't matter that we're on, 57 mana worth of creatures, just win. Artifacts, 16 of them. Bunch of rocks. We are on the Vexing Bauble. Nice thing with Bauble is you don't have the kind of non-bow with Citadel. Usually I would say like, oh, you can just crack your Bauble, but that's kind of tough with actually casting Bolus to Citadel. And I've just never been let down by Vexing Bauble. It's just been fantastic. Might be putting it back into more decks, especially that are already like considering stuff like Urza Saga, Defense Grid, Witchclaw, and we are on the One Ring. Enchantments, we got Static Prison to get rid of anything, Animate Dead, and Necromancy as reanimation options. Necromancy being able to fire off an instant speed, Breach, Necro, Smothering Tithe, of course. 26 lands, including Arena of Glory, which we can use to give our Kaalia haste, which is pretty relevant. Some of the decks that use the Welders can have some overlap with Arena of Glory. Here, there's not so much with that. I guess if you hard cast an Ancient Copper Dragon, that could come up too. Maybe just incidentally being able to give like a Magda and a Ragavan haste could kind of be fine. Being able to give the Kaalia haste really speeds up the ability for this to be a very relevant card. And a lot of times having access to the arena that's coming in untapped and the mana will have you just like tutoring for a Kaalia target, where normally you might tutor for like some way to generate advantage or try to push together like a low resource win in the early game. Other land options, we have the Cavern of Souls on human, because Kaalia is a human even though she has wings. E-Zone, City of Traders, one Surveil land, fetches, duels, all that good stuff. So yeah, very good stuff. Love seeing Kaalia get to do the thing. Absolutely awesome. Mardu kind of popped off this weekend. Alrighty, next up, we got a Magda that popped off. We got a bunch of the old border dwarves, your Ragavans, your newer dwarves that have a little bit more text. Artifact dwarves, Dwarven Blood Boiler. This one is, I think, most notably used with Battered Golem. I've been seeing less of this in at least the events that I've been seeing. I don't know if this has just become an unpopular card, but I have been seeing a little bit less of it recently from just where I've been looking. Not really any new cards that have come out other than the Stride Hanger Automaton. Basically, whenever you would make a treasure, you also make a 1/1 colorless artifact creature token. Zorn doubling your treasures, Roaming Throne, Twin Shot Sniper. And here we actually do see, we have seen generally a lot less of Magdas opting to do really anything with dragons whatsoever. But here we do see Ancient Copper Dragon, which is a way to just win the game with a Magda. And then Realm Scorcher Hellkite is most notably a damage outlet that you can use. Really just cleans up some of the lines, or you just get into situations where it's just like, it's cleaner to do this, as well as also being able to reasonably like bargain this thing and kind of pop some stuff and just control the board with Realm Scorcher Hellkite. It does deal 1 damage to any target, it's not target player. I think this versus some of the more niche outlets that were used, this one kind of seemed like the best one since it came out. If you are going to use a dragon based outlet, haven't played with one, so I can't tell you, how it does, but it did well here. Sorceries, 2 rituals, Shatter Skull Smashing and Sundering Eruption, which definitely to me seem like the best MDFCs. I played with Pinnacle Monk, sometimes it comes up, it's mostly a free slot, but Sundering Eruption is just a really free way to deal with like Gaia's Cradles and other lands that might be, dealing with you. And Shatter Skull Smashing, of course, just free removal on a land. Come on. Instance, we got a good bit of interaction. We've got the Blast, Removal, Volley. We do have the Siege Smash and Sudden Shock, which are both split second. I don't know what's with this art. It's very hard to read this, but there we go. The redirection spells, so really leaning pretty interactive. And then Delay Blast, Fireball, and Pyrokinesis to deal with creatures on the board. Artifacts, we got 26. We are on Chalice of the Void. We got things like the Grafdigger's Cage. We don't always see. Got the Stylus to do some graveyard looping. Copter, Damping Sphere, Burner Rocket, which is 1 in a red flash vehicle with crew 1. Kind of the main thing it does. Rupture Flute, lots of vehicles. So heavy on the vehicles, not a crazy amount of stack pieces. We don't see things like the Sphere of Resistance type of effects. None of that here. You have the Lifecraft Engine, new vehicle. Nexus of Becoming, this is a cool one. 6 mana at the beginning of combat on your turn, draw a card. Then you may exile an artifact or creature card from your hand. If you do, create a token that's a copy of the exiled card, except it's a 3/3 Golem artifact creature token in addition. So this can be a way to kind of sneak in some of these other high value targets. There may be some other shenanigans you can do by making creature versions of some of these cards. I don't exactly know them, but it is just a way to, I got like a God Pharaoh statue or a portal stuck in my hand. Boop, here we go. And just draws you a card, bare minimum. 29 lands total. Command Beacon, Cavern of Souls. We got the Great Furnace. We are on the Mishra's Workshop, Kinzon, Saga, Volatile Fall. Kind of the common utility lands that you expect to see here. Treasure Vault, stuff like that. Alrighty, next up, we've got Rocco. But we got Minsc and Boo, great value engine. We can also use it to potentially sack like our Rector, something like that. Vivian on the Hunt here for those Blood Pod style lines. Looks like we are a turbo oriented or just proactive oriented Rocco list. I'm not seeing any of the stacks pieces that we've seen in some. Basically every successful Rocco list I've seen in like the past year has been this kind of deal where we're doing really cool stuff like tutor for Phyrexian Dreadnought so that we can kill our Arena Rector or our Academy Rector. So we got mana acceleration, card draw, like every door possible. The Phyrexian Dreadnought, like I mentioned, lets us sacrifice creatures. Don't think there's another synergy that we have with it other than just sack fodder is a way that Rocco can reasonably tutor for. Fabro Elder, Shaman of Forgotten Ways, which is one I've seen, adds 2 mana any combination of colors, but this only cast creatures. Then you have the Biorhythm effect on it. Putzel, Emperor Recruiter. We got Squee for our food chain stuff. Jolly Balloon Man, letting us, along with the Kiki Jiki and the Village Bellringer, letting us do that part of the pod style line. And we got Felidar Guardian to do our, alongside Karmic Guide and Kiki Jiki to do our either Vivian on the Hunt or our Blood Pod line and make infinite creatures and kill everybody. We got Treasonous Ogre here, which is usually pretty popular. And then Coercive Recruiter. Whenever coercive, what can't I pronounce this card's name? Whenever Coercive Recruiter or another pirate enters the battlefield under your control, gain control of target creature until end of turn. Untap that creature until end of turn and gains haste and becomes a pirate in addition to its other types. I don't know what this is for. It just takes stuff. So we can definitely do some like take everybody's stuff shenanigans. It is kind of like a Gilded Drake to deal with something like an opposition agent, which is like one of the first things that stands out to me of like one-sided hate, Dranith, Oppo, whatever it is. And then maybe you can do something more value oriented, or it also takes stuff and gives haste. So like if Assist say has a Faber Elder, that's really good. Very notably, if you Gilded Drake a Mana Dork or something, it doesn't matter if it had Summoning Sickness. That creature has Summoning Sickness for you. The red ones that give haste get around that. I see people misplay that with Gilded Drake all the time. Rituals, tutors, that's it. And then Malevolent Rumble, because we're Rumble gaming. Looking at our permanents, we got lots of permanents, so this is just a good card. Malevolent Rumble's great. Instance, we got Force of Vigor as some removal, interaction, tutors. We got the Final Fortune, which is pretty hot. Seething Song is another ritual. Thunderclap is some free interaction, and Pyrokinesis as well. 9 artifacts, including our Birthing Pod, Grim Monolith. We got the One Ring, and then 7 enchantments, including Survival of the Fittest, Carpet, Sylvan Library, Food Chain, Trouble in Pairs, Touch. So yeah, value, tutoring, food chain for our combos. Kind of stuff we expect to see in these decks. Again, nothing resembling a stacks piece at all on this entire list. Very, very proactively leaning. We've got the Market and the Quarry to be able to sacrifice creatures. We got Shifting Woodland to do more of that kind of nonsense. A Surveil Land. Nothing else really too wild going on in the mana base. Here at 12th, we got a TNT. What are they rocking? 4 1-mana dorks, voted Druid. We're on Dranith and Fairy Mastermind. But Master's Lotho as other 2-drop value engines. We're on the Voice, Kinnan. We got Delny, Derevi. We are on Oppo, Flood Caller. I've been seeing some people opt for High Fate Trickster over Flood Caller just because a lot of your non-creatures that are impactful are already at flash speed. But here we got the Flood Caller, Jesus Brewmaster for our devoted Druid, Metamorph, Seedborn. Nothing really too wild. They're experimental here. No Sowing Mica Spawn, anything crazy. 7 sorceries. They are tutors and Culling Ritual and Mnemonic Betrayal. So tutors and kind of finisher cards. Instance, pretty interactive like TNT tends to be. We are on Dark Ritual, which actually is not very common for TNT. Still no Cabal Writ or Ad Nauseam or anything like that. Maybe we're on the Necropotence though. Vamp Tutor. We're on the Mana Drain. That's kind of interesting. Don't see that one too much. Deadly Rollick. Super interactive. You know, you good instant speed tutors. No Eladomri's Call. That's about it. That's standing out. And we're not doing Retraction Helix combo, which has become very, very unpopular in cEDH. 12 artifacts. We are in the Birthing Pod, which again isn't super popular, but can help assemble some of our creature-based combos. Like, you have pretty good reason to do this. It lines up really well with Devoted Druid stuff. We're on the Swift Recon, of course. Training Grounds. We weren't on Biomancer's Familiar, but we're seeing more of Training Grounds and Familiar pop up in this and like Rog Thras. Survival of the Fittest to help assemble that Devoted Druid combo. Our draw engine, stuff like that. And then 28 lands. Just a traditional 4-color mana base. We are on Cavern of Souls too, which isn't super popular. All right, again, we got a Doomsday Raffine, it looks like. This is kind of popping up a little bit now. It's not like it's showing up in every event, but I went from not covering any of these to, in the span of, I don't know, some X amount of months. Feels like I just covered it not too long ago. But we got Raffine. When it attacks, you connive X. X is the number of creatures, so you have a really farm-style plan of attacking with creatures to get value, crack your Doomsday pile, all that kind of good stuff. So creatures, we got keep evasive guys, you know, and just good value stuff like Esper and Mockingbird, but then you have Mausoleum Wanderer, which gives your spirits +1/+1. You can sack it and then counter instant or sorcery unless typically they pay 1, but it could also get buffed when you connive with Raffine. You can put it on the Mausoleum Wanderer and you could put like a, you know, pay 5 or something on instant or sorcery, which is very hard to deal with on a creature activated ability. We got Dothy, kind of like asymmetrical hate stuff. Dothy, Lavinia, Dranith, so a little bit of a theme with that. Malevolent Hermit, which is very similar to a Mausoleum Wanderer. Ornithopter Paradise I've seen in these kind of decks as a evasive thing that you can just throw out if you need to get more Raffine triggers, but also just a mana dork in colors that doesn't get it and cares about having creatures. Polywog Prodigy here, Raffine does trigger it. So we have been seeing Polywog really drop in popularity though. Adeline, so we're really focusing on the beats. This thing can kill people really quickly. Delny to double triggers. Razalax, which is basically a Tymna, except you can, if somebody chump blocks one of your creatures, return it to hand, maybe get some extra value. value, Labman, Luris to get some value, Tymna in the zone, and then on our big mid-rangey plan, we've got the Grim Hireling for value, Rev for value, Hawk's Rill, 5 black, beginning of each instep, put a slime counter on each creature you don't control. Creatures you don't control get -1/-1 for each slime counter. Every creature you don't control with a slime counter on it dies, you get a 1/1 black slug. You can spin blue and black, sack a slug, draw a card. This card was kind of notable when it came out. People played it as a deck, just ramp it out, but it is a big board control piece. This is actually really good, I think, if you can get there into like the Rog Thras kind of stuff. I heard about some Marnius is playing this as well. It's just a very big late game card. If you can generate the mana to get it into play, or you have a way to cheat it into play, we might be running Reanimate, then we have that too. And then Razaketh, we have tons of creatures, compact combos, I imagine. We'll see if there's any unique enablers for Razaketh, but it looks like we're going to be on a reanimation-focused game plan as well. Sorceries, we got Gitaxian Probe, which can help crack a Doomsday pile. The tutors that we kind of expected. The Doomsday, which we also expected. I love this art of it, by the way. And then Reanimate Sevrek, kind of expected to see that. We'll see how deep we go into the reanimation. Instance, lots of the interaction we expect. Thought Scour can be a way to get through either your Doomsday pile, mess with top deck tutors. Also can use it to have a Entomb at home with like Vamp Tutor into Thought Scour, reanimate one of your big monsters. Raven Charm, been a tech piece we've seen talked about. Like that's not a good card, or that's the opposite of their podcast. That's a good card. Talked about this card. Graveyard Hate, deals damage to creatures, blows up an enchantment. Pretty good. We got the Flares, Force, lots of interaction, Sync it to Super. And then Gush gets through the piles as well. Artifacts, not too many. Fast mana and a Sensei's Top, one ring. We are on the Anime Dead. No other reanimation stuff. Your value engines, then Teferi's Ageless Insight. If you would draw a card except the first one, you would draw on each of your draw steps, draw 2 cards instead. This doubles the Raffine, but we don't have to discard double. So Raffine, connive 3, draw 6, discard 3. It turns Raffine to actual value generation. 28 lands. We got a Darkar Waste here. Lots of the pain lands. Check lands. No Surveil. We're on City. Yeah, kind of an odd mana base, but lots of self-ping stuff. We're not on Naz or Necro either, so I guess it doesn't matter too much. Then we got a Kinnan here at 10th place. 25 creatures, lots of dorks, Fairy Mastermind, Drifted Phantasm, which is a transmute card. I've seen like Freedom Waffle play this, lets you go find your Basalt potentially, or your also your Ristic Study, etc. Kind of just gives you a decent amount of selection, kind of like a Trophy Mage, basically. Spirit Guide, Bambi, we got some MDFCs. Clever Impersonator, again, we've seen the very, I guess, Dronjin parasitic type of decks, or just engine-focused Kinnan builds, and then also like Simic Rock Thras start to focus on Clever Impersonator, again, as a way to give Kinnan a Smothering Tithe, which is basically a win con, as well as just copy Ristic Study. Just give you more access to seeing cards, prioritizing the flash effects. Subtlety is a nice piece of interaction as well. Flip targets, nothing too crazy. No more Void Winnower. We don't really see that stuff anymore. Just Seedborn, Consphinx, the horrors, basically, Nezahal, Nyxbloom, stuff like that. No even Wandering Archaic here. Sorceries, as is tradition, just 5 tutors. Instance, not like a crazy amount of interaction. We are in the Commandeer. $14 foil, really? I gotta pick up one of these for Wrong Thras. Veil, Flood Maw. We're not doing Blood Caller combo. Again, really common theme here, even in 2-color decks, not opting for it. We're on the Dramatic Reversal, which I really like. I think in Kinnan especially, it's a pretty nuts card. Tutors, interaction, stuff you expect. Artifacts, bunch o mana. We're on Imposter Mech is another clone effect. Mirage Mirror, Basalt, stuff you expect, the One Ring. Enchantments, we're on Mystic. We're on Copy Artifact and Copy Enchantment and Mirror Maid as sort of clone effects. No Steel Enchantment. Amphibian Downpour, saw this a good bit this weekend. Can really mess up a word state in the middle of a game that's really bogged down and has a lot to deal with, where resolving one, wipe type effect, which Kinnan doesn't even run. I don't think this list was even on Psych Rift. It wasn't. Destroying this makes it a lot harder to deal with, and you can't even Flusterstorm. 27 lands. We are on Mistrise Village, card that's been there in the format. It hasn't been a game warping. I didn't expect it to be. It just seemed like it'd be pretty good in Rog Thras and other maybe Simic-ish decks. That's about where it's been. We got the Treasure Vault 2 as a mana outlet, and then we have Willow Rush Verge. One of the first Verges I've seen, at least, in a cEDH deck. Pretty traditional Kinnan list that's on more of the good stuff, parasitic engine value thing. Next up, we have a Rogsai, one of the few that showed up here. I think this deck is still criminally underplayed. I really thought about playing it this past weekend. I didn't have any reps on it when I had to, kind of put it back together. This or Ral, I think, would have done fantastically this past weekend. I don't, maybe I would have punted, but I felt like they were positioned really well. Creatures, very few. None of the other value-oriented stuff that you see sometimes, like a Fairy Mastermind. Sorceries, we're on the Git Probe. Last Chance, no Warrior's Oath. We've got the triple wheels, no Wheel of Misfortune, Yogg Will, Grasp, relatively standard stuff. We're on Demonic Council. which again, I only hear good things about in this deck list. Instance, first thing standing out is an offer you can't refuse. Can be a good counter spell, very flexible one at the very least. This is a deck that is trying to win very aggressively, and sometimes you are just willing to do the, pitch spell, Rite of Flame, basically, to offer your own spell. Early win attempts in Rogsai, especially Thoracle-based ones, can often be make or break on the pips, so that early treasure stuff makes it, in some situations, much better than Rite of Flame, where, that only helps you with, like, an early breach, which only need 1 red pip anyways. The offer thing can be really nice. Generating blue pips is a lot of times one of the hardest things that you do in this deck when you're presenting wins. Flusterstorm and both Red Blaster here. No Swan Song. Got Into the Floodmaw as a bounce spell. Doesn't hit your own stuff, which is relevant mainly for Necrodom. But of course we have like Chain of Vapor for that. We are on the Reign of Filth card that I haven't got a lot of reps with on Rog side, but I see in a lot of successful lists now. Born Brain Feast on the Days, Flares. We are on Gifts Ungiven. Heard it's been very, very good. Been broken every time I've cast it in any deck. Seems like an awesome card to put here. Nas, of course. We are on Force of Will, no Force of Negation. And we're on the Deadly Rog, too, to deal with some of these creature decks. Fast mana, Chromatic Star. I heard this thing has been fantastic. Again, a lot of times for that fixing. Also, as a value engine with Silas. You'd be able to do this in Silas. Turn Silas into like 1 mana, draw a card every turn. Just okay. Not that bad. It's fine. Sometimes you get into those games where you got to do that, and having something is a whole lot better than having nothing. It's kind of like a slow Lurth plan. I got the Defense Grid, Grinding Station, the rocks, all that good stuff. No One Ring, no keys. Enchantments, we are on the Necrodom, and then the Necro Breach, Mystic Ristic, of course. 23 lands on Raucous Theater as the 1 surveillant of the list. Rogsai getting it done. 2/5 of the players who brought it top 16. They're good players too, but probably a very underplayed deck right now for how well it's doing. Data Talga just released something about this deck matching its pre-ban win rate. I don't know why more people aren't playing it. It just seems fantastic. Next, we got Isaac on the localized image thing. This is sick. I hope it's a Japanese one. Yeah, on our first TNK for the event. All right, good. This is actually really tedious to do on Moxfield. It does make it a little harder for me to show players what the cards do, but it's TNK. You know what most of these cards do anyway. But if Moxfield's watching this, make this easier to do, and also make it where you can kind of view the English versions. 13 creatures. This is where, about where they hover. No Dranith. We got the Professional Facebreaker. Pretty much all stapley stuff. We've got triple silence creatures. Kind of what I expect. Fairy Mastermind as a value one of choice. No Delny, not going too deep on all that. Sorceries, we have Tutors, Rite of Flame, Meme Bet, and we do have 1 wheel and a Deluge. Kind of think Deluge seems like a pretty reasonable option. Sometimes you get into games against like a deck like Rog Thras or Kinnan, where this is like the only card in your deck that's actually going to be able to do anything, and other people will help you fight for it too. That isn't just a win. Instance, the Into the Floodmaw as well. Also on Reign of Filth. I kind of like it better in these sort of decks because it can really clean up a low resource breach thing to just give you mana and cards in yard. Ball Ritual, we're still on the Ad Nauseum. Got the Gifts Ungiven as well in here, along with Intuition. Flare of Duplication. We don't have just a bunch of red creatures lying around in the deck. We got Ragavan, Facebreaker, Spirit Guide, and then the Kraum. But just a pretty good card. This card is really good. I talked to some TNK pilots at the event. They said they loved it. Online more if you're on the Bergie and DRC like Trimnick build, but there you go. You got it. Either way, it's still doing well. Our fast mana that we expect, we are on the Mamber still. Signet and Felwar Stone. Imposter Mech here as a clone option. We don't see any clones in TNK. They're not all that popular right now in a lot of builds and a lot of lists. Then we got the Wishclaw Talisman, no One Ring. Enchantments, Copy Artifact, Steal Enchantment. No Mirror Maid, no Copy Enchantment, any of that. Just these 2 options. And then the ones we expect to see: Breach, Necro, Smothering Tithe. 27 lands. We're on the City of Traders, Forbidden Orchard, and the Cavern of Souls. Might be looking to develop a little bit quicker, kind of push a little bit harder. No, like J-Will and nothing else that kind of pushes that direction. City of Traders, you don't always see in the most mid-rangey of lists, but it's still here, gives you a little bit of speed when you need it. Next up, we got an OG. We got Raven on Kinnan, player that I play with at a decent amount of events, hung out with at this event. Just a super cool person in general. Was really happy to see them do really well in this event, which is super awesome. Usually play Sisay and abandon Sisay for Kinnan. Can't really blame them right now. Here we are, another Kinnan. Bunch of dorks. We got the Bloom Tinder here, Thrasios. I don't even remember if I saw Thrasios in the other Kinnan list. I wasn't even on the lookout for him. Also on the Drift of Phantasms, Spellskite for some protection, Glenalendra, along with the Spellskite options we see pop up in and out. Glenalendra, I know it seemed like kind of fallen out of favor in Kinnan. I don't think I see it in nearly as many now. We're also on the Clever here, High Fate Trickster, as well as the Flood Caller for double flash enablers. No subtlety here. Pretty similar big flips target, and again, no Wandering Archaic. 4 tutors here instead of the 5 we saw, so no Transmute Artifact. Instance, we got the Dispel, Swan Song. We do have a Cyclerift in this one, still on the Reversal Chord. Misdirection and Commandeer, leaning into that sort of interactive package that we see Usually these cards go hand in hand. 17 artifacts on the imposter mech, really good to deal with those bowmasters. Rocks, Mirage Mirror, One Ring, nothing else too crazy. Mirror Maid, and also Freed from the Rail, which is another combo option with lots of mana dorks to just get infinite mana a little bit of a different way. Doesn't usually pop up in a lot of the Kinnan lists that do really well, but occasionally comes in and is in a list that steals an event. 27 lands yet again. We got the E-Zone, nothing else too wild. No Verge in this one. Treasure Vault, 2-color mana base with a Cradle. There you go. And Jaywood on Roxai, like I thought I heard from Dexter, playing the exact same list. We get a break. We get a break for this one. We can do whatever we want here. The exact same 98. And I heard Dexter told me the last event they had a 97 cards where their one difference was one of them played Warrior's Oath and one of them played Last Chance instead. So they just have a history of doing this, just showing up to events, both topping. I think that one was a top 4 and just doing the thing because Roxai is really, really good and you should play it. As you've probably come to expect, we got Pigeon on Rog Thras here, getting 5th at this event. No Titus Josh. These aren't legal yet, Pigeon. This is a misrepresentation of the game state, and you are now DQ'd. Pigeon, of course, just been on a hot streak with Rog Thras. I know they've changed their list a little bit. It's gotten kind of less breachy, a little bit less red last I saw, but let's see what they got. So we got Invasion of Ikoria up here, and our creatures, we got a Spirit Guide, which isn't the most, it's not always in all of them, but Pigeon's been running it. Arbor Elf, another thing that not the most common in Rog Thras, but some people do opt for it, along with usually with Yavimaya, but we'll get there when we get there. Playing the Magus and the Birds. I think Magus was a new addition for Pigeon, if I remember correctly. Lots of other staples or stuff that's always in the considering. Biomaster's familiar. Fairy Mastermind's becoming quite popular. Breeze Caller, of course, defining card of this format. And I just mean that in general, just defining card of the Magic format, because it's one of the reasons that Rog Thras has exploded in popularity. Got the Thundertrap Trainer, 2 clones in Image Flesh Dupe. We are also on the Phyrexian Metamorph and Clever Impersonator as well. Spellseeker, Floodcaller. We are still on the Kitten. I think Sam had cut it. Most of the Rog Thras seem to be on it. Seedborn, Sowing, Micah Spawn. Nothing too crazy. I think pretty similar to what we've seen previously. Sorceries, we see no wheels in here at all. We've got the Gamble as an extra tutor. Usually see this in the Breach builds. Still on Chatterstorm. Low reasonable floor. Like it's pretty reasonable, but the ceiling can be absolutely broken. And then tutors, your Malevolent Rumble. And then Temple Discovery can be absolutely game breaking. A lot of times nobody gives you anything. Sometimes you do. I've heard lots of mixed experiences with it. Playing it in a play group that absolutely despises Rog Thras. They never give me anything. In Swiss, maybe different. Not sure about Pigeon's experience. I think Wounded was telling me he's thinking about cutting it though. Instance, we got our Interaction, Noxious Revival. We are on the Born Upon a Wind here. Brain Freeze is part of our Breach combo, of course. Psych Rift, both the Flares, Fierce. We're on the Frantic Search. Been a really big fan of this card. Force of Negation. No Swan Song, which I'm pretty sure he was on at one point. Maybe I'm thinking of Wounded. I get them back and forth, but usually they go higher and lower on like a bit higher on Interaction or run stuff that not everybody's running. Sudden Substitution, Pigeon Special right there. This Town, Force of Will, MBT. Artifacts, 10 of them. Got the LED for the combo. The fast mana that we run, is on the One Ring. People have been back and forth on it. Can be good to help you rebuild in the wipe or just have a commander agnostic kind of game plan. Enchantments also on the Training Grounds is on Utopia Sprawl as well as Wild Growth. Of course, the Breach, Earthcraft, Growing Rights, and Ristic, which have become staples. 28 lands. I know he just recently went on the Dryad Arbor. Not sure how that played for him, but I've liked it pretty good. Is on the Urza Saga, Mistraz Village, Shifting Woodland, pretty much all the utility lands we've come to expect as staples here in Rog Thras. So yeah, another good performance for Rog Thras doing the Breach thing this time. All right, now we're taking a look at our top 4, which of course includes another Rog Thras Breach list. This time taking a look at Wounded's creature package is slightly different. There's no Spirit Guide, Arbor. Oh no, Spirit Guide's just here. Why do people change this stuff? This stuff drives me crazy. So it's there, but no Arbor. Also just really no green 1-drops other than Birds of Paradise. So no Delighted Halfling, no other replacement for it really. Just a lower 1-drop creature package. But still got the 2-mana clones, Thundertrap, Bambi, Clever. Very similar deal. Like I mentioned, Wounded was saying didn't like it, was maybe going to go back on Time Twister for the temp. There you go. That's the official statement that I heard. But again, similar stuff. Instance, we are on the Swan Song here. Very similar deal. Still a Rog Thras Breach list. 14 artifacts here. Got the Candle, Map. Similar artifacts, but we got some other stuff we're trying to make work. The Mox Opal, which has not been quite as popular. On the Arcane Signet. Springleaf Drum, some people cut it, some people run it. Relic of Legends here. Enchantments, we got the Wild Growth, no Utopia Sprawl. Song of Creation, this one. Think Pigeon cut that one. Then Earthcraft, Breach, Ristic. Don't see anything else kind of popping out in the mana base. But yeah, 2 Breach Rog Thras lists popping off yet again. And Wounded was telling me that he loves Breach. Sometimes you just get to get high roll wins with it. And sometimes it just lets you get a win even when you don't really have a board. Like you've kind of been blown out. And it's hard to redevelop, which can take like an extra turn sometimes. Sometimes you can rebuild fast. Just kind of depends on what your draws are looking like. Breach can kind of ignore all of that part of the game. Then here in third place, we've got Dylan's TNK. This one using the hot Dragon Rage channeler art. Just looks so sick. I love this art. But yeah, we got the DRC Bergie, like I was talking about. Maybe we got the J Will down. You guys know what it is. You guys know what it is. You know when somebody's cooking. Yeah, DRC Bergie, Abolisher, Ranger Cabin. So 15 creatures here. Kind of just adding in the extra ones with the Fairy Mastermind. DRC, it seems like. Sorcery is very similar deal, except we got the J Will. Are still on the one wheel. Instance, we do have an offer, both Red Blast on the Psych Riff, Final Fortune, another Gifts Enjoyer, pretty good, MPT, Intuition. We're on the Nas, 12 artifacts, and we are on the One Ring in this one, along with the, the rest of the stuff we expect. Same deal with the enchantments, no copy artifact, any of the copy stuff, Mirror Maid, none of that, just kind of the 5 good ones. And then 27 lands. We're again on the City of Traders, so that's a common theme. On the Mistraz Village, I like the all borderless treatment on the fetches. I really appreciate it. And we're on the Cavern of Souls too. Yeah, so pretty similar deal with the mana base as well. A little bit different across the list, but yeah, if I was playing TNK, it'd probably look really similar to this. I really like these builds. Interestingly, no Flare of Dupe in this one. That does have more support for it. Something you can consider because it has some success even in lists that can't run it as well, but you only get so many slots, and almost every card in TNK is pretty broken, so tough to make it all fit. Then we have Andy's TNK list. Last one of the event, I promise. Very similar deal to what we saw previously. Not in the last list, but before that. Esper, Mockingbird, basically just pure good stuff. Fairy Mastermind as an engine. Voice, Ranger, Abolisher. Again, stuff you expect TNK to play, but this time we do have the Drannith Magistrate. Praetor's Grass mainly sticking out here compared to the other lists. Here we got Over Mnemonic Betrayal. Typically you want one of these. That way if you have some issue with win cons, you have an option. Praetor's Grass can be more flexible, has a better floor. The ceiling on Mnemonic Betrayal, obviously like one of the highest in the entire format. In our interaction, we have the Dispel into the Floodmaw, both the Red Blast, Force of Negation still here. We, of course, still got the Nas. Again, Gifts Ungiven and Intuition. Turns out Tymna Kraum really likes being able to do even more breach piles with their broken blue cards. Another interesting thing we got here is the Grinding Station. We don't often see in TNK, but it does give us access to even more quick breach lines. Pretty hot. Between that, the Gifts Ungiven and Intuition, this is like a more breach-focused list. We are also on the One Ring. Nothing else really to speak of here in the artifacts. And then the Mopal, some different selection, the 2-mana rocks. Here, no Necropotence, but is going for copy artifacts. So we have an emphasis on breach wins, but not necessarily an emphasis on turboing out because we don't have like the Necropotence there, which has had like kind of mixed reception in TNK lists. But overall, this event, most of them are on Necro that topped. 27 lands, City of Traders at an all-time high in TNK, it looks like. Got the Surveilland here as well, Forbidden Orchard, and on the Cavern of Souls. Again, super, super popular at this event. So yeah, TNKs having like 5-ish slots, kind of different. Maybe a little more in the DRC one, but pretty similar stuff. TNK just in a fantastic spot, even though really 3 of them topping this event was still like pretty low conversion rate, but it is such a large event, you do kind of expect conversion rates to be a little lower because there's still only 16 spots. Then the hero of the event, the winner of our Landgo cEDH Open 10K, Tymna Dargo, a jammer. Now I can tell you this right now. We were on the drive back after watching the yappiest top 16 game of my life, maybe, and then a very yappy top 4 pod. Seeing the one person in the pod actually trying to take game actions and jam. Well, I mean, there was a turn 1 nods, I think, also. So maybe 2 people in the pod. But the one who wasn't playing blue and was actually balling out, win the event in a really tough position, jamming through pieces, getting interacted with like 4 or 5 different times, having to do a Final Fortune line to pick it all back up to put it together, and winning that event. We popped off. We were watching this thing on the drive back and we popped off. This was so sick. I love seeing this. So let's take a look at what we're working with. We got 22 creatures. Very heavy on the creatures. We have both the Welders and Magda, means we're guaranteed to be on Citadel. Bowmasters, Bergie, Felia. I still don't really get the Felia. I have to look at the rest of the list. I saw that one on stream. Like looking at the creatures, it just hits like Imp-Recruiter, I guess Ranger Captain, Deadpool, I guess that one too. Engineer could be reasonable. Got to see where that one does. It is just like a flash creature as well, but we'll have to see. Dualcaster Mage is almost impossible to make that one work actually. The way the timing on this works. But yeah, got the DCM, the blank Goblin or just Goblin. Mayhem Devil, we're very like treasure kind of focused, sacrifice focused. Of course, we're going to be able to control the board with Mayhem Devil. Deadpool, trading card. First, I think top 16 list that I've seen featuring this. 4 mana. As he enters, you may exchange his text box and another creatures. Beginning of your upkeep, you lose 3 life. 3 mana, sack this creature. Each other player draws a card. So this is your Rakdos Gilded Drake, essentially, that also doubles ETB. So for instance, if there wasn't really anything on the board, instead of, you know, taking somebody's random creature that they have, that whatever, you can still just use it on Imperial Recruiter and get the enter the battlefield effect on it as he enters. So you'll see the ETB like a clone. We also got Ruthless Technomancer, which is fantastic with Dargo. Makes 7 treasures on ETB, can perform some loops with it. And Rakdos the Muscle, which is also amazing with Dargo because you sacrifice Dargo, Rakdos the Muscle will trigger, you exile 7 cards from a player's library to recast them. Roken, any of the creatures you have just Rakdos itself, sack some creatures to cast your Dargo. It's going to trigger Rakdos on all those creatures. Then when Dargo enters, you can sacrifice him using Rakdos the Muscle's ability. Get the Dargo 7 cards. Like it's a huge, like it can be like a Nas in terms of resource swing or a one-sided wheel every time you cast Dargo. It can easily just go absolutely bonkers. Sorceries, we've got tutors, we got to reanimate. No crazy creatures, but we do just have strong stuff to get in the yard. Sometimes you're just going to reanimate a Ranger Captain or your Rakdos or your Ruthless Technomancer, or whatever it might be. The tutors, Molten Dupe, which we can also use to win with our Dualcaster Mage. Those like make a clone of like a good artifact or creature and then sack it. So it can kind of be like mana neutral because you get the 2 mana off for the Dargo sack. Predator's Grasp, just really strong, powerful card. Sevirek Beseech, Peer into the Abyss, which means this player believes in something. So they're even cooler than I thought. Just that goat. Peer into the Abyss, which means that they ball even harder than we thought before. And it Seize the Spotlight, which is kind of a Tymna Dargo special. 2 in a red. Each opponent chooses Fame or Fortune. For each player who chose Fame, gain control of a creature that player controls until end of turn. Untap those creatures, they gain haste. For each player who chose Fortune, draw a card and create a treasure token. So the way this plays out is if they choose Fame, then you get one of their creatures. They don't get to know and it doesn't target, so you just take it. But they can choose Fame even if they don't have creatures. So this is kind of at its best, and it provides the most pressure to get value out of it if people all have good creatures. If they don't give you a creature, then you draw a card and make a treasure, which is broken. If this is 3 mana, make 3 mana, draw 3 cards, it's obviously very strong. If they give you creatures, you get to sacrifice them to casting Dargo, which is really strong too. So it's only like really bad if no one has creatures. But once the board gets developed, like it's actually a card that scales pretty well. Instance, we got the Burnt Offering and the Sacrifice, of course, just crazy rituals with your Dargo, Orum's Chant, Path, Over Swords, because we're a Bolas's Citadel deck. That's right, chat. That means we have a Citadel in play. We can shuffle that land off the top. Pyroblast, no Red Blast. Soul Partition as flexible removal. Final Fortune is our only extra turn effect. Tainted Pact. Notably, no Ad Nauseum. Not here. We got big stuff you might not want to flip. We're prioritizing the Peer over it. If we're probably gonna win off of the spellcast, let's go ahead and just make sure we win, because I don't think a Mardu deck can Peer into the Abyss and not win the game. As long as they get the Peer. Artifacts. We've got a whole bunch of fast mana, Portable Hole to be able to get rid of stuff. Altar of Dementia, which is part of our Dargo lines. Sacrifices it, mill 7, can work with breach stuff, whatever we're doing. It works as an outlet, basically. Defense Grid. Prize Statue, which is just like another Dargo specialty. 2 mana. When it enters, you make a treasure. When it leaves, you make a treasure. So very often, it'll enter, you make a treasure, crack the treasure, cast Dargo, sacrificing the prize statue, you get left a treasure behind. You can like sacrifice a lot of permanents that way. It's kind of like a free spell, but it nets you mana for Dargo. So it's kind of like a Dargo oriented ritual that also provides mana fixing. Altar of the Wretched, better known as Walta in the Dargo community. 2 in a black. When it enters the battlefield, you may sacrifice a non-token creature. If you do, draw X, then mill X, where X is that creature's power. 3 mana, ETB, draw 7, mill 7. And then if it ends up in your graveyard, you can spend 2 in a black and return it from your hand. And it has craft text that doesn't really matter, but does look cool. But yeah, even if it gets countered, you just get to try it again later. Just a busted card yet again with Dargo, just really breaking your commander, which is a little bit of a theme this weekend with some of these decks. Obviously not the TNKs, but the Rog Thrases and the Kinnans, whatever, are just really breaking their commanders, but really turning Dargo into something that is worth not having just a cheap commander. I really like in this current format that is just mid-range engines and garbage like that, having something that is actually broken in your deck. And Mardu Dargo definitely gets to do that. Cursed Mirror works some wonders with the Welders. Just a pretty good card in general. Relic of Legends can be part of your Dargo loops. Same thing with your Burgi, where a lot of times once you get enough permanent sacrifice, cast Dargo, make a red, or tap him down to Relic, make a red, and then you can do the loop with the Altar of Dementia because your Dargo is getting sacked, so the Dargo commander tax is paid for, and then the red is covered either by Burgi or the Relic of Legends, and if you have both, you can potentially do this even through a Ristic Study. And then we got the Citadel because we're balling. Static Prison, told you guys. Static Prison, just been a banger in Mardu decks. Goblin Bombardment, another way that we can kill people with Dargo at the end of the game. Breach, Tithe, Trouble in Pairs for value, Breach for winning the game. And then the Bombardment also can have some other stuff to just control the board. I'm not sure on the assessment of it in terms of actual card quality, but just in general, not a bad thing to have, especially when combined with Mayhem Devil. And then 24 lands, City, Cavern, E-Zone still. I really like the Mardu decks that still run E-Zone. Not on a Surveil land, I don't believe, but that's all good. We actually just blew them all out. Love this deck. Love people jamming. Want to see more of it. I think there is some truth to the people who are saying right now that it's a mid-range meta just because people choose for it to be. You could just jam anyways. I'm giving you permission to just jam and to, cast your spells. Learn your deck. Don't just jam into draw engines and lose and then blame it on the people with the draw engines. But be willing to ball out because you can win massive cEDH tournaments if you do. Let me know down below what you think of these deck lists, as well as just the general cEDH meta. This event came with the announcement that Land Go will be taking over some of the top deck events like the Boil, as well as doing another one of these next year with double the cap. We'll see where they put that because it's a little tight at points anyways. But I do also want to say, just in general, had a great time at this event. The vending was excellent. There were altarists there. There were people signing cards, artists there. Wasn't a lack of things to do. Lots of side events. Had a fantastic time. Just great stuff all around. Thank you so much for watching. And as always, go play cEDH. Have a good one, everybody.